Let's embark on a trip through 35 cases where police officers messed with the wrong criminals. In this clip, we can see a suspect who seems to be in trouble with the law running for his life, and behind them is a pack of police officers on motorcycles chasing after him with their sirens wailing. Trying to outsmart the police, the suspect is seen darting into narrow streets, hoping to lose the officers, but the cops are really determined to catch him, and it does not look like they would give up easily. Still, in pursuit, the police bikers maneuver through the tight spaces, keeping the suspect in sight, and shortly, more cops come to close in on the chase. Even when the suspect dashes into an open area, he is surrounded by cops on motorcycles, but then he somehow manages to slip away. However, this is where things get tougher. The officers are closing in, surrounding the suspect from all sides. There's no easy way out. It looks like the end is near, but just when it seems like there's no hope, the suspect comes up with a clever plan. With quick thinking, they outsmart everyone by hopping over a fence, slipping away from the officer's grasp once again. This next footage from Dewberry, West Yorkshire, shows cops arriving at this house, all ready to catch the suspect trying to get in, but the door's locked and the suspect won't open up, even when they ask nicely. That should have been a clue for the cops, but they didn't catch on. Finally, they break into the house. And guess what? The suspect drops right out of the window above them and runs off. It's like they weren't even paying attention. You'd expect at least one of them to stay outside and stop the suspect from getting away, but I guess even cops mess up sometimes. This suspect pulls off a crazy escape that leaves the police scratching their heads. So this guy was parked illegally, and the cops came up to him. They're like, "Hey, you can't park here." But it seems like no big deal. They tell him to turn off his engine, but he's acting kind of strange. He's fidgeting and says he'd rather park somewhere else. But the cop notices something's off and insists he turn off his engine. Instead, the suspect ignores them and speeds away. The cops freak out and start shooting at the car. It's chaos as the car skids off the road. In this surveillance camera footage, a man is caught strolling into a boutique. It seems normal, right? Well, this sketchy customer switches his black t-shirt for a bright red jersey. Then, with a confident stride, he walks out, slipping away from the police unnoticed. But that's not the end of it. He heads into another store and emerges wearing a face mask. It's amazing how a simple change of clothes can turn him into a whole new person right before our eyes. When this suspect gets taken to the police station, it is safe to assume that the game is over. After all, once you're in custody, you're stuck, right? But watch closely as the police cars pull up to the station. The suspect remains locked inside one of them. The officers hop out of their cars, chatting away as they do their usual checks. But here's the thing. They forget to keep a close eye on the suspect in the back seat. Big mistake. The suspect spots his chance and doesn't waste a second. As soon as the officers step away from the car, the suspect pounces into action, escaping from the car through the open driver's seat and then running through the closing garage gate. This guy was recording himself parkouring in New York City, but then the cops came up to him, wondering what he was up to. The parkour guy tries explaining that he's just doing his thing, moving through the city in his own cool way, but before the police can say anything else, he's off, parkouring away from them. He jumps from a tall building onto a nearby stairway, giving them the finger as he goes. It's daring stuff. Then he blends into the crowd, feeling pretty pleased with himself. On December 10th, 2 deputies from the Kent County Sheriff's Office approached a car they suspected was involved in a theft. Dashcam footage shows the deputies trying to talk to the 2 people in the car, but they refused to listen and got aggressive. Without waiting, the driver of the car moved forward, hit the police car, and then backed up onto an embankment, trying to escape. Even though the officers tried to get their stun gun back, the car was too fast, and they couldn't keep chasing it. The 2 criminals, identified as Torap Parfait and Bradley Johnson, haven't been caught yet. They're accused of doing fraudulent things at gas stations in Grand Rapids, Cedar Springs, Granville, Caledonia, and Moly. A spectator records how the police arrests this criminal and takes him to their police vehicle. Unknown to the officer, the car's door was unlocked, and the criminal takes advantage of that. In a thrilling moment, the car door opens, and the criminal escapes, leaving behind a shocked officer and bystanders who couldn't do anything. The area gets tense, as the crowd is surprised by what happened. Even though the police immediately chase after the criminal to catch him again, they couldn't find him, and he completely gets away from them. With a parachute strapped on, this guy is about to jump off a bridge while being recorded, even though there's a bunch of police right behind him. They tell him to stop, but he's like, "Nah, I'm doing it anyway. Arrest me if you want." As he gets ready to jump off the bridge, a cop tries to talk him out of it, but he doesn't listen and goes for it anyway. Surprisingly, the cop doesn't try to stop him. Maybe getting in his way would have been too risky. The police just watch quietly as the guy jumps off the bridge and lands safely on the shore. And then, without chasing after him, they just stand there, looking puzzled. Body cam records how a convict in a wheelchair is being escorted by an officer to the courthouse for trial. It seems like nothing could go wrong, right? Hold on tight, because things are about to get wild. The officer seems calm, not worried about any escape plans. He's just casually wheeling the convict along, not paying much attention. But little does he know, he's in for a big surprise. As they reach the courthouse door, the convict suddenly grabs onto the railings, jumps out of the wheelchair, and bolts away. The officer is left standing there, totally puzzled. He tries to chase after the escapee, but it's too late. Those crucial moments were wasted. To make matters worse, the officer doesn't have a phone or radio to call for backup. He has to rely on civilians to help him out. Exhausted and unable to find the escapee, the officer retreats to his police van, leaving the elusive convict unaccounted for. It looked like a normal snowy day for these officers as they pulled over a car for a routine traffic stop. The cop walks over to the suspect's car to ask a few questions. But things take a surprising turn. Out of nowhere, the suspect decides to make a run for it. The chase begins, and the police car struggles to keep up with the old car speeding away on the snowy dirt road with no plans of stopping. Just when the officers think they might catch up, the suspect pulls a sneaky move. They slow down and park their car to the side, tricking the cops. But as soon as the officers think they've got him, he makes a U-turn and is gone again, leaving them feeling foolish. This teenager was caught by the cops for having weed in his possession. While they were body searching the teen in what looked like a pretty cop-hostile environment, the crowd got mad at the officers for arresting the teen, making the police officers feel uneasy. So they try handcuffing him in order to possibly take him to the station before the unexpected happens. The teen breaks loose and bolts. The officers rush after him, but here's the kicker: even the crowd joins in on the chase. This policeman on the chase does something totally outrageous after a suspect escapes. So there's this intense chase between the policeman and the suspect. It looked like the cop wasn't exactly in shape, and he was struggling to keep up. Just as predicted, the suspect easily gets away. But then, get ready for the shocker. Instead of chasing after the suspect, the cop steps back and starts undoing his harness. What's he doing? He pulls down his pants and squats on the ground to take a dump, right after the suspect got away. After the policeman is done, he cleans himself up with his socks like it's no big deal, tosses them away, puts his shoes back on, fixes his harness, and walks off like everything's normal. This suspect records himself racing through the quiet suburbs on his scooter, trying his best to outrun the police officers on their speedy bikes. But let's be real, a scooter isn't as fast as a police motorcycle. Before long, the officer catches up, and with a couple of bumps, the suspect is knocked off his scooter. At this point, it seems like the chase might be over. The officers think they've got him. Easy peasy. But they've underestimated the suspect and his trusty scooter. Once more, the officers try to bump into the suspect, thinking they'll stop him in his tracks. But once again, they're proven wrong. They've messed with the wrong guy this time. A prison escapee can be seen walking around, acting like he's just out for a jog. when a cop named Carl Borden stops him to question him. The escapee, pretending to be innocent, says he lives down the road by Pineville. Carl, being a smart cop, is suspicious, but this escapee is a good actor. Carl asks him some questions and the escapee says his name is Robert Jones. Carl calls another cop for advice. The other cop tells Carl to check the escapee for anything suspicious, but Carl doesn't find anything. The questioning goes on for a while, and somewhere along the line, the escapee's name changes to Jimmy Jones. But Carl doesn't seem to notice. After a bit, Carl lets the escapee go, but it turns out that the escapee's real name is Richard Lee McNair. He ran off to Canada but got caught again later. A neighbor recorded a suspect, still with handcuffs on, climbed out of a window on the second floor of an apartment and landed dramatically on the roof of a red car. Below, in a scary situation, one of the person's hands was still cuffed to the car's radiator, adding more suspense to the already exciting moment. With courage, maybe driven by instincts to survive, the person ran into the street away from the officers who were still on the second floor. This 17-year-old in handcuffs was led into the Rock County Sheriff's Office. With a nod, the sheriff left the teen alone in the office. But then the teen didn't hesitate to do the unimaginable. Despite the cuffs, he made a quick decision. Ignoring the chair, he went straight to an open window and jumped out. It was a daring move, but he did it smoothly. The surveillance camera caught it all. The teen dashed into the street, surprising everyone watching. Back in the office, the sheriff noticed the empty room and hurried back in. Panicked, he ran out to get help in chasing down the runaway teen. On a warm June night in 2018, under the dim glow of streetlights, a group of young guys gathered in a car park. They laughed and joked as they rode their bikes around, enjoying the freedom of the night. But suddenly, the fun was interrupted when a police car pulled into the lot. Tension filled the air as the officers approached, focusing their attention on one of the boys, hinting that he might be a suspect in something. Just as the situation seemed dire, a friend of the boy sprung into action. With a quick move, he opened the door of the police car, surprising everyone, including the officers. In a daring move, he helped his friend escape from the back seat, leading to a swift getaway. As the two boys sped off into the night on their bikes, the police reacted quickly, trying to catch them. Since March 19, 2021, a video has been making the rounds on social media, capturing a wild scene during spring break at a Florida beach. Shared on YouTube, it shows an unexpected turn of events. As the sun beat down on the sandy shores, beachgoers found themselves witnessing an amusing incident. A young man, handcuffed and sitting in the back of a police cruiser, became the center of attention. But then, something unexpected happened. In a display of collective ingenuity, over 200 people collaborated to help the handcuffed guy escape. While the arresting officer briefly turned away, they seized the opportunity. With a quick and clever move, they managed to open the police vehicle. The handcuffed suspect wasted no time. Seizing his chance, he swiftly bolted out of the car and dashed in the opposite direction. Chaos ensued as onlookers joined in the pursuit, creating a chaotic scene on the beach. This driver shows off his skills, pulling off daring moves to outsmart the cops. With a sudden drift and a sharp turn to the right, he seized the perfect moment to escape. Leaping out of the car, the driver disappears, leaving the police clueless about their getaway. But the unmanned car keeps going, with two police vehicles hot on its tail. Meanwhile, the sneaky driver makes a run for it on foot, leaving everyone wondering what will happen next. In a surprising twist, the man manages to outwit the officers. On May 28, 2019, at exactly 10:31 a.m., in a South American country, a camera captured a suspect who was being chased by the police. The suspect, named Paulie, dashed through a building near the water's edge. As tension mounted, Paulie reached a balcony overlooking the water. Without hesitation, he bravely jumped into the water below, narrowly escaping the police. A police helicopter captures a wild chase through the Santa Clarita Valley. It all starts with a suspect fleeing in a car, making things dangerous by driving recklessly. He even went the wrong way and narrowly avoided crashing into other cars. As the pursuit heads southbound on the 605 freeway, it takes a dangerous turn. The suspect weaves through traffic and changes lanes daringly, trying everything he can to escape capture. The LAPD helicopter captures every audacious move. But then, unexpectedly, the fleeing car stops near thick bushes. Sheriff's deputies and a special team search the area, going from manhole to manhole, trying to find the suspect. What seemed like a straightforward chase turns into a mystery when the driver disappears on foot, entering a tunnel. Despite a 1-hour search by the police, the suspect remains elusive. For safety reasons, the authorities have to stop the operation, leaving the outcome uncertain. Concerns arise about police procedures and public safety when a handcuffed man pulls off a daring escape. Benjamin Henson, the handcuffed individual, steals an Oklahoma Highway Patrol K-9 unit during a routine traffic stop on January 10th. The incident, captured on camera, unfolds in Canadian County around 8:30 p.m. Initially pulled over for traffic violations, Henson, aged 23, is issued a warning ticket after a brief exchange with the trooper. However, when the officer discovers bags of marijuana in the vehicle and proceeds to handcuff Henson inside the patrol car, chaos ensues. Seemingly unfazed by the cuffs, Henson maneuvers to the driver's seat and speeds away, leaving law enforcement stunned. In a small town called Uros, chaos broke out when Lucas Castanhari dos Santos, age 25, had a frightening showdown with the police. CCTV footage shows the darkness of the night as Santos emerges from behind a vehicle. As he steps out, you see him approach an officer, but suddenly he runs away from the policeman. The situation gets worse when Dos Santos, despite being handcuffed, grabs an officer's weapon and starts shooting at the pursuing officers. 2 officers get hurt, but Dos Santos, wearing a bulletproof vest, survives the bullets. An off-duty officer, hearing the gunfire, rushes to help and fires 9 shots at Dos Santos. Dos Santos, who was initially caught with 32 drug portions and $5, now faces the consequences of his actions, from his escape attempt turning violent to the clash with the officers. Investigations, including statements from the injured officers and forensic analysis of seized weapons, shed light on this intense episode. On a hot day in August 2017 in busy Brooklyn, Ohio, there was trouble. It started when a guy drove a stolen minivan super fast, with cops chasing him. The police, used to chases, were surprised by how dangerous this one was. The guy driving wasn't just trying to get away, he had a plan. He drove really fast, swerving through traffic at 94 miles per hour, risking his life and others. There were crashes, but he kept going, determined to escape. Even when his van crashed, he didn't stop. He ran away on foot, leaving the wreck behind. He managed to get away from the guards and tricked the cops, disappearing into the streets of Brooklyn. It seemed like the police had caught this suspect since he was in handcuffs. But somehow, he manages to break free and run for his freedom. As he dashes away, he spots a red car nearby. Without hesitation, he jumps through the window and into the driver's seat. Just in time, the car speeds off, leaving the police behind trying to catch up. This criminal stole a Tundra and raced it away from the police. They chased him fast through the desert. But then, the suspect crashed the stolen SUV while trying to escape. Even though the car was wrecked, the suspect didn't give up. They ran through the rough desert ground, trying to hide from the police. Eventually, the suspect found some parked police cars belonging to the California Highway Patrol. Sneakily, they stole one of the cruisers, hoping to get away. The suspect tricked some police cars and managed to escape for a while. But luck didn't last long. The stolen cruiser got stuck, and the suspect had to give up. The police caught him and took him away. In the early morning, 2 friends rode their fast bikers through quiet streets, feeling the cool air. Suddenly, a loud police siren broke the peace. They realized they were in a big chase. Without waiting, They started their own wild chase and skillfully dogged the chasing cops, weaving through traffic and narrow streets. Finally, they hid in a big warehouse, safe from the police. The cops couldn't find them. On a sunny June 22nd, a guy pulled off a Hollywood-style escape right from the courthouse, smack dab in the middle of the city. But the drama didn't end there. The chase that ensued quickly turned into a dangerous shootout. As the guy bolted from the courthouse, sirens blared, and cops raced after him at full speed. Suddenly, shots rang out, sending people running for cover. But tragically, two innocent bystanders who were just going about their day got caught in the crossfire. An investigative arrestee, suspected of theft, pulled off a remarkable Houdini act, slipping away from the temporary detention center right under the noses of the authorities. This guy wasn't your average detainee. He had some serious suspicions hanging over his head. But instead of keeping a close watch on him, the police got distracted and patrolled elsewhere. And guess what? He didn't even need to break into a sprint. He simply strolled away peacefully from the unguarded scene. This Nissan Altima is speeding down the road, even though it lost a tire in its bumper during a chase. Still, it didn't give up. It kept going and crossed the state line. Then, a person driving a car saw what was happening and turned on their emergency lights and siren. They wanted to catch up to the Nissan. After some effort, they finally reached the Nissan and signaled for the driver to stop at the side of the road. But the driver of the Nissan didn't stop. Instead, they hit the gas and sped away. The driver of the Nissan was tricky. They swerved through traffic going really fast, even faster than 104 miles per hour. It was like they were playing a game of hide and seek with the police car. On a warm July 6th at the Huber Heights Police Department in Ohio, what was supposed to be a routine day in Montgomery County Municipal Court took a surprising turn. A prisoner known as Nisley, along with another inmate, was being transferred when an unexpected opportunity presented itself. While the officers were preoccupied with bringing in the other prisoner, Nisley seized the moment. With stealth and calmness, he quietly made his move. Slipping unnoticed to the side of the car, he saw his chance. With a quick glance around, Nisley spotted a van conveniently parked nearby, its keys temptingly within reach. Without a word, he slipped into the van and made his escape. Using the van as a battering ram, he crashed through the prison doors and vanished into the day. The police were jolted from their routine by a sudden commotion outside, realizing too late that Nisley had slipped away. Confusion and disbelief gripped them as they scrambled to respond. Minutes later, the abandoned van was discovered half a mile from the police station. With determination, the police tracked down Nisley and brought him back into custody. But now, in addition to his initial charges, he faces the consequences of his daring escape. In Philadelphia, on a tense night, an ambulance theft sparks a dangerous chase. The suspect, fearless and determined, takes control of the ambulance, setting off a heart-pounding sequence of events. It all starts on Roosevelt Boulevard, where the police are ready to spring into action. Despite their brave efforts, the suspect manages to evade several cops, driving recklessly through the streets. With every passing moment, the situation grows more chaotic. The stolen ambulance becomes a weapon of chaos, narrowly avoiding collisions and causing damage to other vehicles. Several police cars join in, attempting to bring the suspect to a halt. But the suspect remains in control. Even as the police try to restrict his movements, the suspect maintains his grip on the situation, adding to the tension with each street he passes. The man in black dashes across a bridge, with officers hot on his heels. These officers pursued him to the water's edge. But just when they think they've caught up, the man stops abruptly, ready to face them head-on. A fierce struggle looms, tension thick in the air. Then, in a surprising move, the man hurls one of the officers into the water. "What's he playing at?" the others cry out in disbelief. But the drama doesn't end there. The man seizes his chance and makes a daring escape, leaving the officer soaking wet. Yet, undeterred, the officer rises from the water, determined to continue the chase.